So we have a grade calculator program that we want to work on, and the idea is to teach you how to use nested if statements. Now what I'm about to do is not necessary. It's just an explanation, or it's a way to help us understand how to use nested if statements. So I have a text box, a button, and a label. The user is going to enter their score, and this is going to say something like, if the person entered 65, say for example, then we'll say you earned a D. If the person put 98, then we'll say you earned an A, or something like that. All right, so I'm going to double-click the Submit button so I can go into the code area. Now, typically we want to type in our comments, which is declarations, get user input, calculation, and then finally generate some sort of an output. Now in terms of the declarations, you should ask, what is it that I need to give to the user, and what is it that I need to obtain from the user? Well, clearly I need to get the user's score, and then I'm going to display some sort of a message to the user here. So dim score as, and I'm going to make that a double because the user could enter in a number with a decimal point. Next, we'll say dim output as string, because I need to send a message to the user such as you earned an A or you earned a B, so forth and so on. Okay, so I have these two. All right, let's get the user input. So that means score is going to be assigned. So I'll convert to double whatever is inside of that text box dot text. Now I've obtained the text that was entered into this text box. I'm converting it into a real number, that is a number with a decimal point, and putting it into the variable score. Well, now that I have that number, I can do this. If the score is greater than or equal to 90, and if the score is less than or equal to 100, then, all right, so at this point, I can enter in whatever it is that I want to send out to the user. So this is using the logical operator. Well, if this is the case, then we want to say something like this. So we'll say output is going to be you earned an A. Okay. But what if that's not the case? So we'll say else if the score is greater than or equal to 80, and if the score is less than 90, then, well, at this point, if that's the case, we'll say output you earned a B. Okay. Now I'm going to take this and copy and paste it, because all I have to do is copy and paste this and then change the numbers around a little bit. So Control C, and I'll Control V over here. If your score is greater than 70 and if it's less than 80, then you earned a C. I'm going to paste again. If your score is greater than 60 and if it's less than 70, then you earned a D. Finally, if all of those above are false, then the output is going to be you earned an F. So you can see that the usage of the logical AND operator allows me in this case to create an envelope of values, an envelope of valid values. In this case, if the score is greater than or equal to 90 and if the score is less than or equal to 100, if both of those criteria are true, then we say you earned an A. So let's give you an example. What if I did something like this? What if the score is assigned to 200? What would happen? All right. If the score is greater than or equal to 90, that's a true statement so far. Yeah, 200 is greater than or equal to 90. But here's the other part. And if the score is less than or equal to 100, well, that's not the case. 200 is not less than or equal to 100. So what would happen here is we would skip from here and go to this next possibility and see what happens. All right. So if the score is greater than or equal to 80, and which is true, And if the score is less than 90, nope, 200 over here is not less than 90. So this is false. So let's try this one. Is 200 greater than or equal to 70? Yes. Well, how about this? And is 200 less than 80? Nope, that's false. So we go over here. Is 200 greater than or equal to 60? Yes. Is it less than 70? No. So what happens? I give the user an F for earning 200. Well, that's not good. So it looks like maybe we need to change our program. An F should be anything from 0 to 60, or maybe I should say this, maybe it should be anything less than 60. So how about this? Else if the score is less than 60, then, okay, that way if the user enters 200, say for example, this is going to be false, and so in other words, nothing gets displayed on the screen. Maybe we could say invalid input, right? So we'll say something like this. Else output is invalid input, because they are only supposed to enter numbers from 0 to 100, say for example. So this being the case, what would be the output variable be equal to? Invalid input. Yes? I do have an else statement over here. I could have just an else if, but what I'm considering is what happens if the user enters some strange value like this? So then I have an else statement to catch that. Because if all the above are false, then you didn't enter in a correct number. Like in this case, the user enters 200, say for example. Well, you're supposed to enter a number from 0 to 100. So that's why I have that else statement right there. I don't have to, yeah. The very last statement does not have to have an if. The very last statement of an if statement can just simply be else. I don't have to have this either. Now the output will be nothing because it was assigned to nothing. So what I want to do is I want to try to consider all the different possibilities. And here, if you did not enter a valid number, then I'm going to display invalid input. If all else fails, display this. Okay, and then in the output section, we'll just simply say lbl result.text is going to be assigned whatever the variable output is. So let me save this, and I'll run the program, and I'll move this over here so you can see what it looks like. Here's the program. So let's see what happens. 95, or I said 96. Invalid input. Okay, so why is that? All right, so, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to get rid of this. Let me stop the program. I got to get rid of this. Here we go. Now let me move this over here. 95. You earned an A. Good. 85. You earned a B. Good. 75. You earned a C. Okay. How about 65? You earned a D. About 55, you earned an F. How about 200? Invalid input. Because you are not entering a number inside of this range. So you can see that the AND logical operator is great for determining if two things are true. And if I used another AND statement, I could determine if three things are true, and so forth and so on. But for right now, I'm just saying, hey, if this is true, and if this is true, then do this. The AND statement allows me to do that. If this is true, and if this is true, then do this. Okay? So this is using logical AND. Now, what I'd like to do is show you another approach that uses nested if statements that will do the same thing, but it looks a little bit more cumbersome than this. So over here, so using nested if statements. And then later on, I'll comment this out. So what I could do is this. If the score is greater than or equal to 90, then, and then within here I have another if statement. If the score is less than or equal to 100, then Now, if this is true, if both of those are true, then the output is going to be you earned an A. So you'll notice that over here, I'm asking two questions. Is score greater than 90, greater than or equal to 90? And is score less than 100? I'm doing the same thing over here. If the score is greater than or equal to 90, and if the score is less than or equal to 100, if both of those are true, then here's your output. But notice that I have a nested if statement. This if statement is inside of this one. Whereas over here, we don't have nested if statements. I'm using the word and to replace this type of approach. So one's not right, one's not wrong. It's just a different approach, however you want to use this. Okay, so what if this is not the case? What if the score is greater than 90, but it's not less than 100? Then I'll do this. I'll say else if the, actually, let's do this. Let's just say else the output, actually, you know what? Let me not do that. Let me not have an else statement over here. All I'm asking is if the score is greater than this and if this is the case, then we do this. Otherwise, oh, I see. Then we'll say something like this. We'll say else invalid input. Something like that. Then I'm going to press enter after this statement and say else if the score is greater than or equal to 80, then, so notice what I did. I have an else if statement that is tagged with this if statement, and I'll say if the score is less than or, actually just less than 70, then, I'm sorry, less than 90. Then the output is going to be you earned a B. So that takes care of this statement right here. This right here is another way of rewriting this. If your score is greater than or equal to 80, let's say that that's true. If the score is less than 90, well, so it's 80 something, right? 80 or 80 something. Well, then you earned a B. All right. What if we have something like this? Else if the score is greater than or equal to 70, then if the score is less than 80, then the output is going to be you earned a C. So I think I'm starting to win you over, but this is a much more concise and easier way of understanding than using the nested if statements. Again, there's nothing wrong with using the nested if statement approach. It's just you got to keep track of what you're doing here. All right, and then let me just copy and paste this. And change this to if the score is greater than or equal to 70, and if it's, I said 70, sorry, if the score is greater than or equal to 60, and if it's less than 70, or if the score is also less than 70, then you earned a D. Finally, if the score is less than 60. Then your output is going to be you earned an F. And then finally, I can, actually I think I already took care of the invalid input up here, so I think I'm all set. So, which do you think looks better? This right here or this right here? Right? I think this one looks more concise and readable. This does the exact same thing though. Let's test it out. So let's say that score is assigned 200. All right, is 200 greater than or equal to 90? Yes. So this is a true statement. So now we go into here. Is 200 less than or equal to 100? No, it's not. So that's a false statement, which means we go over here and we say output is assigned invalid input. Okay, how about this? Let's say that this is 95. Is 95 greater than or equal to 90? Yes. Okay, so since that's true, we go inside into this other nested if statement. Is 95 less than or equal to 100? Yes, that's true. So then output is going to be assigned, you earned an A. Now watch what happens from here. From here, we jump out of all these other else if statements to right here, whatever the next statement happens to be. So only one of these if statements are going to be executed, and not all of them. How about this? Let's say that this is equal to 55. Okay. If score is greater than or equal to 90, nope, 55 is not greater than or equal to. So watch where we go. From here, you do not go inside. You go to the next else if statement. Is 55 greater than or equal to 80? No. So you go to this if statement. Is 55 greater than or equal to 70? Nope. Is it greater than or equal to 60? No. Is it less than 60? Yes, that's true. It's less than 60. 55 is less than 60. So the output is you earned an F. Okay, so let me get rid of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this usage over here using logical AND. So I'll take this and let me apply a comment to all these so that now this is the code that we're going to work on, this version. Run the program. So let's see here. 95, I earned an A. 85, B. 75, C. 65, D. 55, F. What if I enter something strange like 200? Invalid input. Okay. So you see that this approach is exactly giving me the exact same output as this approach, but I'm using nested if statements over here. I am using the logical AND operator over here.